let's start working on question C now. So suppose the probability of being caught is 0.2, the cost of effort are given 100 per period, and the alternative wages are 200. Now what's the minimum level of wages in period 1 and period 2? So the minimum wage when young and when old, so that the worker puts high effort in both periods and is willing to work at this firm in both periods. Now recall in the previous two videos we found out the constraints that we need to satisfy both for the young and for the old, so we have to take both them into account with this data in mind. Before we do so, there's one thing I want to mention, because I realized after the last video that there was a small math error I made over here. So when opening the brackets, I mixed some signs. Over here, when we took the P as a common factor, right, the probability, we're left with VO, and from here, because we had negative P, we're left with a -1 as a coefficient as well. So here we should have the negative sign minus VO, and over here we have plus P times CO. So what we're left with is a positive coefficient 1 times CO. So over here must be a positive sign, meaning that the signs are mixed between these two. So we must have minus WO plus CO. Now with that said, we can go on. What do we need now? We need to know what's going to be the wage of the old worker, right? How to pay the old worker. Well, we know that for the old worker we have these constraints, which is going to be the bigger wage between the two constraints, between CO divided by P and VO plus CO. So let's write them over here. Where are we? We're over here on the top, I think. Yes. Now let's write it that we need the maximum value when he is old. So we're doing it for the old worker. We need the maximum wage between the maximum value between the two constraints, and the constraints are CO divided by P. The wage must cover at least that, right? We're interested in the minimum wage that's gonna make the worker work. So it must be the bigger between this or the other one, which is VO plus CO. VO plus CO. Okay, so let's use the data to find out what that number is going to be. We can substitute the numbers over here, meaning we're looking for the maximum value between the two. CO, that's 100, right? 100, and that probability is given as 0.2. So 100 divided by 0.2. The alternative wage is equal to 200 plus the cost of effort, which is 100. So 200 plus 100. Now what's 100 divided by 0.2? Well, that's gonna be 500. That's gonna be 500. So it's the maximum between 500 and 200 plus 100 is 300. So the maximum between 500 and 300 is gonna be equal to 500 euros. So if we pay 500 euros, we cover both conditions. We did that for the old worker. We do it now for the young worker. And why do we do it now for the young worker? Because we had to know first the wage for the old worker, since the constraint of the young worker takes into account the wage of the old worker. The intuition is that when we are young, we have more time to, not more time, but we have a reason to think about the future as well, because we have, you know, one more period to work. But when we are old, we only care about the moment, what we get right now, because this is our, you know, last shot, so to speak. So when we are young, we want to find the maximum value between our constraints, and we found out those constraints in the previous video. Let's just write them over here. They're over here below. Where are we? So this is one of them. This is the participation constraint that we have to keep in mind. Let me see if I can remember this. No, I'm not. I'm gonna just crop it. So I'm just gonna crop it like that. Copy and paste it. So copy and paste it over here, like that. And one more constraint. One more constraint was the one that we finally solved, that we corrected in the beginning of the video. It was over here somewhere. So this one, I'm gonna crop that as well. This is the second constraint that we have to keep in mind, like that. Copy and paste it. So go up over here. Yes. Okay, now it's a matter of substituting the data as well. I think we can recall the data by heart already, because there's just like two numbers involved. All right, so maximum between this, what's that going to be? Let's see. The maximum between the alternative wage VY and VO are both 200. So we have over here 200 plus 200 plus the cost of effort, which is 100 in both periods, plus 100, minus the wage when he is old. We decided that the wage when he is old is going to be 500 euros, so that's where the 500 comes into play, minus 500, plus the cost of effort when he is old, and the cost of effort is 100 in both periods. So we have this math to do, and in the second one, in the second, what do you call this, constraint, we have the following. We have VO, which is 200, right, minus the W, which is 500 in the old period, plus the cost of effort when he is old, which is 100, so plus 100, and the cost of effort when he is young divided by the probability of being caught. Well, the cost of effort is 100, the probability of being caught is 0.2. All right, yeah, I think the math is right so far. Okay, let's move on. What do we have now? Let's see. We will have the following. We will have the maximum value between 200 plus 2, so over here, 200 plus 200, that's equal to 400 plus 100, that's 500, minus 500 is 0, and we're left with 100. So we have 100, or what is the other option? 200 minus 500, that's minus 300, plus 100, that's minus 200, 100 divided by 0.2, that's 500, right? Yes, that's 500. And over here we said, one more time, this is minus 300, plus 100 is minus 200, plus 500, that's going to be equal to 300. So over here we have the 300. Now the maximum is going to be 300, meaning that the wage that we must pay when he is young is going to be at least 300 euros. Now look at the intuition. Why is the wage that when he is young 300 euros, but when he is old is 500 euros? We're paying less when he is young, we're paying more when he is old. The idea is this. It's what we said a couple of minutes ago. When he is young, he takes into account that he still has time to work. So he knows that he's going to have time, you know, to get bonuses, promotions, and all that. So he has somewhat less of an urgency, of a need to be paid a lot right away, because he knows he can collect a lot of money later. Whereas when he's old, he knows that he's going to retire soon, so there's no reason for him to wait, because he doesn't have that time. He's very close to his finish line. That's why he must be compensated more. Hope the intuition makes sense. In the next video, we go to part D.